Good day, Pat the Backyard Builder here. Well, today I'm siding some sheds. I've made a few little sheds in the driveway here for sale, and I needed to find an inexpensive way to finish them. So what I'm doing is I'm making my own homemade wood siding, and this is basically what the product looks like when it's finished, and I'm going to show you today how I did this. One of the most expensive parts of any construction project is actually the finishing. The rough construction is usually done quite quickly and quite cheaply, but you'll find that the finishing tends to take twice as much time as you plan, and usually tends to double the cost of the project. So I built a few sheds recently, and I need to find an inexpensive way to finish them. Something that looks rather decent, and I got thinking, well, why don't I try and make my own wooden siding? Wooden siding, of course, used to be the way things were done all the time. Everything was done in wood, but in recent years they've gone to vinyl. But even that, although that's an inexpensive product, that can be quite expensive when you're doing a building of any size. So anyways, I was looking around my local lumberyard, and I found a lift of good quarter-inch good one side fir plywood that had been water damaged. And of course, nobody wanted to buy the plywood because it was all stained and stuff from being damaged by the water. So I struck up a deal with one of the managers at the store, and I managed to pick this stuff up for $15 a sheet. So I picked up half a dozen sheets, and I'm now doing a small little 4x4 foot shed, so that and a few other pieces that I have to custom mill, and which is rather easy to do, and I can now make my own siding. It's going to cost me just a little over $100 for everything now, and I did this whole shed this siding for that price. Now, the first thing I've done is I cut everything down into 8-inch strips. The whole length of the plywood. Just put her on the table saw, and I just ripped it until I ran out of plywood, and I've got a nice little stack of it sitting on the driveway. And I figured the 6 sheets should be more than enough surface area to cover that little shed that I'm doing. Now I've also had to make a couple other custom pieces, and I'll just show you how we did that here. I took one of the sheet pieces, and I ripped it down to a 2-inch strip. This is going to be my starter strip, and I might either cut this in half again to a 1-inch strip, and that might be my finishing strip for the top, or I might actually see if I've got some quarter round or some cove or something to go and finish the very top of the shed. But you'll need some 2-inch strips to start. And then what I did to make my own corner pieces is I started out with a 1x6, and I cut it down to 2.5 inches, and that gives me a piece that's 2.5 inches, and another piece is about 3 1/4 or so, 3 3/8. And then I cut these notches here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these pieces together, and that is actually going to form my corner. Now this is what the corner looks like when you put it all together. Now I mentioned I did the one piece that's 3.5 inches and or 3 3/8, and the other piece is 2.5 inches, and then I put them so that the longer piece overlaps the shorter piece, and it makes a corner with about equal distance here. Once I had ripped the 1x6 so that I could make the corner piece so it fit this arrangement, the next thing I had to do was cut these notches here on both sides. And the way I did that is I set the height of the blade to 3/4 of an inch, and I set the fence to 1/2 inch deep. Okay, and then after that I ran it through the table saw and made this cut, and then what I did, I made the first cut here where that was up 3/4 of an inch deep, and then I reversed the measurements so that the blade was now 1/2 inch high and 3/4 of an inch wide at the fence, and I reversed or flipped the board over and ran it through again. Now when you're doing that, just to keep track of your sides so you don't cut the wrong side off, if you set your depth, your width at 1/2 inch first, okay, and run through, then mark an X on the side that was facing the fence, and the same side that was facing the fence is the same side that goes down when you cut the piece out here. And then after that you just simply assemble your pieces together with nails or staples or whatever, and you can make yourself a custom corner right up to 16 feet long if you want. So it's really handy for bigger projects as well. Now to put all this together, I start out with an 8-inch strip, and I'm going to have a 2-inch overlap, so I'm going to actually end up with about 6 inches of exposure. So what I've done is I take my starter strip and I just put it over, and I just mark a line all the way down, and then that tells me where to actually place the siding when I'm putting it on the wall, and because I'm not going to have the benefit of a channel which lifts up and clicks like I do with the plastic siding, so I kind of have to eye this up visually. Okay, so now this is how it all goes together. Basically what you do is you start out with your starter strip, and you simply staple that to the bottom of the wall. Okay, it just sits right there. And what you do after you've got your starter strip up is you just simply take your first piece of siding and put it over, and make sure you overhang it a bit. I've got it overhanging about 3/4 of an inch over the starter strip, and what that does, that just gives you your traditional overlapping outward angle of the siding. Okay, that's just to give it a little bit of a gap and put some pressure outward, and then you just simply take your siding and just staple it all the way along your wall. I went about every 6 inches. I'm sure 8 inches would probably work as well, and just put it on securely. And once you've got your siding in place, then you go over and you set your corners. Now you'll note that I'm actually back a bit from the corner. That's just to give room for the corner to sit up against the wall, of course, and then the piece that you cut out overlaps the siding. And that's about all there is to it. It's real easy. It goes fairly quickly putting it together. One just has to watch their markings as they put things together, and it looks really sharp when it's finished. Just a little tip for putting this together. I've made myself a little cheater block here, and I just use that as I place the pieces of siding in. I just put the little cheater block in just to make sure that I've got the spacing correct, because you have to be about 1.5 inches, 1 3/8 back from the edge. Otherwise, obviously your corner's not going to sit in properly. So what we're going to do is just put our little cheater block into place and put the starter strip in, line it up with the bottom of the wall there, and just take the staple gun and there. Now, before we go too far, we're just going to take the cheater block and put it on the other end and make sure that we've got the full clearance that we need for the corner to go on that side as well. And once we've got that for sure, then we can just staple along the whole way. And now what we do, we take our next piece here, just line it up with the edge. You can just use your fingertip to do that. Okay. Then take the cheater block and just put it up under the edge there, and that'll give you a 3/4 of an inch overhang. And there we go. Once you got that in place, just take your gun, stand the nail, go to the other end, set your height, and now you got her. And then now the line that I drew here earlier, I'm just going to use that to line up the bottom of the next sheet and just all the way up the wall. And the next layer, just line up your line. You should have marked this with a 2-inch line all the way across here. So just line up the line and line up the edge, and you're ready to go. Just as you can see, it goes fairly quickly, and I just use a cheater block just to make sure I've got my spacing correct and that it stays correct all the way up, because you don't really have a corner or anything you can line up with, so it's just handy to use that little tool. There you go. And that's pretty much it. Just go up your whole wall there and then put the corners on. Now when you get close to the top of your wall, if you're dealing with a gable, then you need to obviously do a custom cut on your siding to make it fit. So the easiest way I've found is just take a cut off piece of the siding and line it up with the line that you've made here, so you've got your 2-inch overlap, and just move it in level with that line until it touches right up on the bottom of the soffit there. Okay, then just simply mark yourself a line, and then take your tape measure. Now, you know that you're 16, in my case I'm 16 1/4 inches in. I know that's the full width of the board at 16 inches in. And down here I'm 3 3/8 inches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my next panel and I'm going to mark 3 3/8 right there, and I'm going to mark 16 1/4 up here, and I'm just going to cut the diagonal off, and that piece should just fit right in there. So anyways, marked off 3 3/8 inches here and cut back to 16 1/4 inches, and did my bevel and put it up there, and it fits just perfect. So what we're going to do, we'll just staple that one up and we'll go on to the next piece. Just make sure, yeah, that's fitting fine. So off we go. And then once again, we just measure in the same way as the first piece. Find our line here. We have to get a little closer to that. Find our line. And the last piece of course is pretty small, so there we go. That's our full 8 inches there. And you can either measure from back here or you can measure it this way. It's 7 1/4 from the end. And then the total length of the run is 28 1/2. So you can measure either direction to get your angle. That fits the way it's supposed to. Just double check and make sure that we're there. Voila. We just need one little tiny chunk for up there and we're finished. This side anyway, and we'll put the corner on. Okay, so now that our siding is all on, the next thing we need to do is measure up to the trim. And that's quite easy. Just simply take the tape and measure all the way down to the bottom and add yourself an extra inch so that you've got some overhang on that. In this case, I'm exactly 8 feet. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to cut your corner pieces that you previously put the bevel in, or not the bevel, the cut-out notch, and then you're going to assemble them and put them on. Now I find it's actually easier to measure, cut your corner first, and pre-assemble it, and then put it in place. That seems to be the easiest way to do this whole operation. Specifically because up here I've got the bevel, and trying to cut the assembled corner is pretty tricky on a saw if you've got that bevel there. So this piece here, this edge here just gets cut flush, whereas the other piece that fits on this face needs to have the angle. So I know they're both going to be 8 feet, and my angle is going to be the same as that previous cut, so I can just, I've actually got a chunk of wood that's left over from cutting out that piece of siding up there, so I can actually use that as a template to get the right bevel angle for that corner. So what you can do to make your bevel cut easier, this is the piece, the cutoff from the piece of siding that I put up there. So it's going to have the same angle. And I know I need to have the angle run from the top down. So I'm just going to put that way. I'm going to turn my saw until that lines up exactly with that edge, and then lock it. And now I can take this piece here. I know that this small piece is the piece that's going to be up against the face that's got the bevel running down. So I need the bevel to run this way, which is the way I've got my saw running. And I'm just going to put that in there, and I'm going to line up with the very edge there. And we're just going to cut that off, and our bevel will fit perfectly. We'll of course dry fit it before you put it up there. But there we go. That's all there is to that. Now we take this piece and we staple it to the wider piece, and that piece can now be installed. Okay, so once you've got your pieces assembled and you've dry fit them, make sure that they're going to fit properly, just come on in, put your corner up on the shed, and just press it in. Make sure that your notch here is overlapping on both sides, and then just proceed to put a couple staples in and drive it home. Okay, and we're up top here. Now, I find if you go probably every 2 or 3 layers of strips of siding, that's probably sufficient for most things. One thing I will mention, that whenever you're dealing with a sloped roof, remember that the angle at one end is going to be opposite at the other end. So make sure you flip your template over when you cut your board, otherwise your corner's not going to fit. Voila! And that's all there is to it. That's makes a nice little shed. Now you can paint this or stain it. I like the green. I think I'm going to try a stain on this one and see what it looks like. Probably just going to use a decking stain and sealer, and it should look pretty good once we all got it all done here. So anyways, have a great day.